Hearthstone is a game where most can forget all their stress and just have fun. But to competitive players, the America's Championship is an opportunity for victory and honor by combining strategy, deception, strength, and raw power. These top 8 players have brought their decks to San Francisco to claim the title of Hearthstone America's Champion.
Pull up a chair, Ryder. And welcome to the Hearthstone America's Championship! And now, introducing your host, Rachel Quirico!
Greetings, travelers! This tournament began in January, with players battling for competitive points all year long in ranked play, online cups, and major Hearthstone events around the world. Today we have 2 card slingers representing the best of Latin America, and we have 6 of the top players from North America, all coming together to compete for the chance to be called America's Champion. Also, a $25,000 prize pool and the opportunity to represent their country at the Hearthstone World Championships later at BlizzCon. This weekend's tournament will feature a group stage with the top 2 players from each group advancing to the semifinals. In the first group, we have Jab, a second-time contender for a World Championship qualification. Trump, benevolent educator and champion of the people. Correa, who fights to bring recognition to the Brazilian scene. And Purple, the training partner of last year's World Champion Firebat. Group 2 features Hot Form, a calculating card slinger with an eye for innovation. The underdog Nias, a force of both brains and brawn. Molgel, our youngest competitor, clocking in at just 14 years old. And VLPS, our most consistent ladder player. Following a time-honored tradition, these top 8 players will be competing in a best-of-5 Conquest format.
Conquest is a match format created for competitive Hearthstone tournament play and is the official match format for the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship. Here's how it works. Each player begins with 3 decks using a unique class for each deck. For example, a player can have a warrior deck, a priest deck, and a warlock deck, but not 2 different warlock decks. When a match begins, each player selects their first deck without telling the other player which one they've chosen to play with.
Garrosh versus Uther.
After the first game ends, the winning player's deck is declared victorious and can no longer be used, and they must choose from their remaining decks for Game 2. The losing player may choose to use the same deck they just lost with, or one of their remaining decks. This continues through games 3, 4, and 5 if necessary. Once a player has conquered their opponent with all 3 of their decks, the match is over and the winning player advances. Conquest will be used at the 2015 Hearthstone World Championship, which has a prize pool of $250,000. Now that you know the format, try taking part in an online tournament or a fireside gathering near you.
The group stage matches will commence momentarily, followed by the 2 winners round matches later this afternoon. And now, for the main event, I'm going to hand you over to our casting team, led by Dan Frodan Chow.
Thank you very much, Rachels, and greetings from the Folsom Foundry in San Francisco, California. My name is Frodan. I'm joined on the desk by Liquid Savitz, as well as Tempo Storm's very own Reynad. And this weekend, we're going to crown an America champion. Savitz, I met you last week at Prague. We crowned an EU champion. What's it like being here in San Francisco, crossing overseas to cast this event?
San Francisco is beautiful. I've come a long way from Finland, and I'm glad I did. We have an amazing top 8, and we're going to have 2 epic days of Hearthstone action.
And Reynad, we don't really see you casting that often, but you're here on the desk. Are you enjoying it? Are you ready to pour some salt all over the players in the audience here?
Always, always. I'm excited to see how this goes. I mean, we have so many great players from the Americas. I'm really excited to see how the players from South America do. I'm just pumped. This is going to be a great event. Love San Francisco and happy to be here.
That's right. We have representatives all over the Americas region, not just America and Canada that people usually represent North America, but we have Latin American players as well. Let us know what you guys think, too, on social media by hashtagging HWC 2015 and tweeting at PlayHearthstone. Whether you're playing games along with us or you're watching some of your favorite moments, let us know. As for us, we're going to get ready for our first match of the day. It's Trump versus Jab. What a great way to start up Group A. Let's take a look at what these 2 players have to say before the very first match.
My name is Justin. My tag is Jab, and I'm here to qualify for BlizzCon.
I'm Jeffrey Shi. You know me as Trump. I'm going to win the Hearthstone World Championship because I've probably put in more time compiling data than anyone else here.
I feel pretty confident going in against Trump. The lineup I brought is pretty favored against what he normally likes to play.
Jab is famous for playing a mid-range hunter very well.
He probably doesn't know too much about me other than I'm known for hunter, which doesn't really matter because even if they know my exact list, I'll still just win with it.
I actually think his exact lineup is going to be mid-range hunter, druid, and tempo mage, which if he's bringing exactly those 3 decks, I believe I am somewhere in the ballpark of like a 55 to 60% favorite.
Trump got into the scene really early and everyone knows him. He put in pretty much more work than most people in the scene, I would say. He's very well respected, and beating him obviously is a great feeling because of how many people watch him.
I think Jab will be overjoyed to find out that I'm his opponent because he expects that I'll bring hand luck. When he matches up against me and sees no Warlock on my list, he's going to be pretty sad.
Yeah, I'm looking to get a big win finally.
Winning the World Championship means so much to me.
My eyes are set on the first place prize.
Jab versus Trump.
Thank you very much, Innkeeper, and that's right, Jab versus Trump will commence in just a second. A handshake, accompanied by a little stare down. I felt some animosity there, Savis. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. Seems like Trump got the predictions right there. We'll see if he's the 55 to 60% favorite going into this.
That's right. Take a look at the classes right in front of you. Trump's prediction was spot on, Reynad. We do have that druid, the hunter, and the mage. Whether or not to be seen those exact archetypes, we'll discover in just a moment. But interesting to note right off the bat, what sticks out to you immediately?
Well, no warrior from Jab. That's a huge deal. You know, a deck that's a lot of people expect a lot of in this tournament is going to be Patron Warrior, something that, you know, is a very powerful deck, very well respected by pros. And, you know, Jab's opting to play some form of mage, hunter, and druid instead of that. So
that's right.
The decks that Jab is playing actually overperformed, I think, in the qualifiers like leading up to this. These are all decks with very high win percentages. I like his lineup. We'll see how it goes.
Another thing that sticks out to me too is that there's a lack of Warlock in this series, and Trump even mentioned it before the series. It's like he's going to be surprised if he sees my Warlock or the lack thereof. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen. In game number 1, we're going to start off with Druid versus the Warrior, and it is not even going to be the Warrior we thought it would be, unless all of a sudden Patron Warrior decided to run Ysera and Sylvanas and Grommash. I'd be very surprised to see that was the case.
We can be safely say, but just based on the starting hand, that this is not going to be Patrons. Trump will be bringing that Control Warrior, and this is not a good matchup to start things off. He's going to be up against the Druid, and that's one of the worst matchups for Control Warrior because there's simply not that much removal for those big minions, and Druid has plenty of time to just play the threats one by one.
At least on paper, although Reynad, I think we were talking about this yesterday, you feel like it's not as bad for Warrior against Druid these days. Why is that?
Oh, it really depends on which version of Warrior Trump is playing. Like, Control Warrior and Patron Warrior are both very powerful decks. One of the advantages of Patron is the stronger Druid matchup. You can get a lot of Patrons on board quickly. Trump's deck's not going to have that option, so he's going to need to draw the right removal in the right order. And the modern Warrior control decks are choosing to cut Acolyte of Pain here and there in favor of cards like Slam, Bash. And these are cards that are really good at killing Darnassus Aspirant.
Which is in the opening hand of Jab. He has both ways to ramp too, which is very good access for Jab to continue to hit some of his higher mana minions if he draws them. That's one of the drawbacks of having just ramp in the early game. Sometimes you get spells, sometimes you don't have a way to play anything beyond this Pilot Shredder.
Oh yeah, absolutely great starting hand from Jab. A little bit early for the Roar, but having both Wild Growth and an Aspirant, he's likely to go for the Wild Growth first because the Fiery War Axe is a scary thing.
When you have coin and 2 of those ramp effects, you have so many options.
Yeah, with the coin though, like Aspirant is just fine because he will cast that Wild Growth next turn anyway. And Trump doesn't have an answer to that right now.
Right, it's a good backup option in case this Darnassus Aspirant dies, which, like you said, he's most likely going to Wild Growth anyways. He can play the Pilot Shredder on turn 3 instead of turn 4 because he gets that extra mana acceleration.
Regardless of if the Aspirant lives or not.
Not to mention, if he picks up a 3-mana minion, he plays that and the Darnassus Aspirant lives anyways.
But Trump pretty straight up slam here, nothing else to do.
Well,
picks up a Belcher. No weapon still. Definitely wants to find a weapon as soon as possible.
It's true, but it is important that you have things to play as Warrior. One of the worst feelings is if Druid gives you an opportunity to develop things on the board, you end up just hero power and passing. That's a terrible feeling as the Warrior.
Yeah, absolutely. That Acolyte's so good right here.
Absolutely. No Keeper of the Grove from Jab. That's going to be able to... Oh!
Wow, oh, that helps.
Yeah, so now he has 2 extra mana to pick up. That Innervate allows him for 7 mana effectively this turn. The Azure Drake plus the Wrath gives him some really good board development and dealing with the Acolyte without letting it draw 2 cards.
Yeah, the card-wise this is not so efficient. He's going to spend both the Innervate and the Wrath to deal with that Acolyte, which is going to draw a card anyway, so it's going to do for 0. But on the other hand, he gets the tempo and he just drew a card with the Drake. So he's in good shape.
Yeah, that tempo is so valuable to the Druid just because you care about what's on the board so much more than your resource advantage because you already have things like Savage Ore. You're going to try to leverage that to end the game before the Warrior can set up in the late game.
Trump still looking for the weapon. Gets 2 draws at it and see if he finds it.
This is a matchup where the... Oh,
gets a weapon.
That's pretty huge.
Only deals 3 damage, but with the slam, he will be able to take out the Drake if he wants to. We'll see how he prioritizes here, because it's possible that he wants to take that Mana Crystal away as well.
The thing about most Druid decks is they don't tend to play many 6-drops, sometimes just Emperor, sometimes just Sylvanas, sometimes neither. So you're not too worried about letting Aspirant stay alive this turn, because it's probably not going to change what Jab plays next turn.
Oh yeah,
so I expect him to take out Drake.
Only Emperor would be a 6-mana play, really. Most people have cut Sylvanas from the Druid nowadays.
However, on the other hand, 7 mana is a really big key. So killing the Darnassus Aspirant the following turn to deny your opponent the 7 mana turn is really big because then they can't play their Dr. Boom or the Ancient of Lore, or even if they're running Ancient of Wars, which isn't entirely uncommon in Druid decks these days.
Absolutely.
Sacrifice War Axe, a little redundant. You don't really need that for another 2 turns because you're going to be swinging with this one as well as the next turn.
I wouldn't be too shocked if he chose to take out the Aspirant here first, just to play around the Emperor a tiny bit, but 4-2, 2-1, it's good to kill the big minions first.
That's right, and there is that 7 mana Ancient of Lore that we just mentioned, which will draw more cards into the Druid, ultimately supplanting his resources to end the game. However, that's going to be on the high priority list for Trump to take out, and Jab has to manage whether or not he wants to protect it. Because normally you want to go for mana efficiency, Pilot Shredder allows you hero power, but the Druid of the Claw would be able to be played in taunt mode and protect that Darnassus Aspirant.
Yeah, that's a really surprising play.
That's very surprising. He could have protected the Aspirant here. Because now if the Aspirant gets killed, he won't be able to play the Ancient of Lore next turn. We'll see how this works out. It is possible that Trump is going to use his Fire War Axe on the bigger minion anyway, but I mean, Druid is getting to 7 mana. How do you leave out the Aspirant?
Yeah, and that's going to be very inconvenient because now you are floating a mana with the Druid of the Claw. Unless you want to use your mana efficiently, but that ends up in awkward plays.
I feel like it would have worked out way better for Jab to maybe do it the other way around.
Shield block off the top allows him to gain some life and use that shield slam on the far left very effectively, which converts all of the armor that you get into direct damage onto a minion.
Now that's a really powerful play here. Going for the shield block and getting an armor up afterwards to get up to 7 armor, which allows him to deal with that Druid of the Claw efficiently.
That's a pretty dominant board spot here for Trump to once again control it. Sludge Belcher challenges the Pilot Shredder, normally considered one of the best 4-mana minions in the game, but it gets stopped by this 5-mana taunt.
One of the best 5-mana minions in the game.
One of the best 5-mana. I don't disagree.
Ancient of Lore comes down. It's going to give Druid just enough resources to make sure to always have stuff to play in this game. This is a matchup that often drags out into the late game. It's important to hit cards like Ancient of Lore and Azure Drake, because if you don't, a lot of times you just run out of cards as the Druid.
Absolutely.
Things like Innervate, Darnassus Aspirant, Wild Growth, they all are kind of low-impact cards where you sacrifice card advantage for tempo, so...
As a Druid, you usually hope to pick up just as many threats as possible, as many minions as possible. Getting those 5 drops, getting the 7 drops. And he has a decent hand here right now. 8 mana, he could play 2 minions, he could go for the Shade Belcher. He could go for some kind of Wrath play if he's too scared about the Sylvanas. Like, right now, the main focus is how to deal with that Sylvanas.
Right, without Keeper of the Grove Silence, like you said, that Sylvanas will be looking to trade onto the board. And this is something, too, that is really clever to observe. Trump could have picked up a good trade by attacking into this, the Pilot Shredder, killing off the 4-3 for 3-5. That's usually pretty good, but By doing so, he kills off the Shredder and makes Sylvanas' board presence a lot weaker in terms of what he can get stolen. Excuse me.
From Jab's perspective, he's likely to just go for the Belcher and ignore the Sylvanas for right now. Because of that taunt ability, the Sylvanas might not be able to steal anything too valuable right now.
Unless Trump draws a brawl.
Yeah, that would have been crazy. Oh my. I would have been ready to call the game over just here if he had that brawl. Yeah,
right there would have been a huge swing for the board because Sylvanas is guaranteed to win the brawl no matter what. Either she lives or she steals whatever lives. And It's a huge impact swing.
And Jab, right now he has all the minions on the board, only spells in his hand. But if this board survives, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of this board remaining for the next turn, he does have the double roar. And how much damage is that right now?
2 roars with 12 damage on board.
Yeah, there's 16 each. I mean, it's lethal, is what it is.
Can he survive this by playing a Shield Maiden, maybe Fire War Axe, take out the slime?
Shield Maiden's going to bring him up to 29, and he's going to be taking, I think, 29 exactly.
See, 5 damage on the lore plus the 7, so that's 12. 12 plus 2 Savage
28, right? Because he's killing the slime.
Yeah, you're right.
Killing the slime.
That would be 29, I believe, because he gets the hero power and weave this in.
I mean, that's the power of Druid. It's one of the strongest burst finishes in the game. Savage Roar is just so efficient. If any minions stick, it's so much damage per mana. And Jab's going to do the math. I may think he has it here.
Yeah, absolutely. He has it. Jab is going to take game 1.
Yeah, and as a result, the Sylvanas did not get a board impact play at all. Jab willed Savage Roar twice and take game number 1 over this Control Warrior deck from Trump.
Yeah, it looked like Trump was doing quite alright early on, but just that Sludge Belcher play right there. Trump did not have the brawl and no ways to clear enough minions on his last turn.
It's interesting to see the Sludge Belcher in the first place. It's not a common card that you see in Druid decks. It's a very interesting tech choice. There's so many cards that you can play in Druid. Just about any efficient minion makes a lot of sense, but like Sludge Belcher gave him an answer to something that Druid would otherwise have a lot of problems with. It's not known for having strong removal. Cards like Sylvanas, when they stick, usually dominate the board against it, but yeah, Belcher kind of won him that game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that completely. It's a great choice from Jab to bring it here.
Yeah, it was a great choice as well as the Ancient of Lore. That helped a lot too, because at one point it looked like his hand was feeling a little weak, and then being able to supplant the 5/5 on the board plus draw a couple of cards there really allowed Jab to finish the game. So Jab getting a little help from there off the top of his deck, but also getting some help from some really important people in his life, and we got an opportunity to see what he had to say about them.
Is there anyone in your life that has been more helpful than anybody else in terms of your Hearthstone career?
Yeah, I guess my mother actually, because she's been very supportive of me in my decision to take a break from school and pursue this full time. And then I quickly showed her how good I was at the game, so she's just been very supportive of me all the way through. And she actually is kind of a fan of the game now, like she watches my matches.
That's pretty awesome. Being able to get supported by your parents, do something you love, and be able to play in front of this awesome crowd of people here in San Francisco. What an opportunity for Jab to be able to do this, because you do see players like Trump quite often travel the world and play Hearthstone. But for Jab, this is his 2nd time in the Americas Championships. Last year, he got stopped in the round of 16 in New York Hammerstein Ballroom. This year, he really wants to make that extra push and go to the next round and become the Americas champion.
Yeah, this tournament means a lot for Jab. This is really an opportunity for him to make a name for himself, and he's doing it so far. Off an early lead.
And now we're gonna see Jab pilot his signature mid-range Hunter.
Yes. This is something Jab is extremely well known for. He was playing mid-range Hunter before players like Life Coach and Kalento were the ones who popularized and ultimately terrorized ladder with it. However, we do also have to mention there is another really popular class nowadays, but maybe not for the reasons you've come to expect. Trump is bringing Paladin. However, it's not the Secrets Paladin that's been very popular also on ladder. It seems to be more of a mid-range or at least a slower variant of it.
Yeah, seems like it. Seeing that Harrison Jones and Equality is something that we don't see in Secrets Paladins usually. Very rare. I've sometimes seen one here and there, but it's very rare.
Yeah, it's definitely a card that's there to help with the Patron matchup that otherwise be pretty difficult for the Paladin deck. They get their Grim Patrons out, you play Equality, and then you're fine. But this matchup is actually very polarizing. Depending on whether you ask the Hunter or the Paladin player, everybody thinks they're favored. So
is that so?
It feels like specifically Paladin specialists don't want to feel like Paladin's bad against classes. So Paladin players usually say like, no, it's actually pretty good.
What do you guys think?
Well, I think Paladin is definitely the reactive deck in the matchup. It can draw the right answers in the right order. As long as you have your Eldor Peacekeeper for their high main, you have the right early game board control, you can win. And I really think it's going to depend a lot on how these early turns play out.
Absolutely, and something like Master for Battle is very important for Trump to pick up. I tend to favor the Hunter in this matchup, and looking at Jab's hand, he's curving out perfectly. He has everything he needs for now.
And that's the key to this Hunter deck in the first place. A lot of people look at Hunter nowadays and feel like, you know, it's a lot of damage onto your opponent. You can rush. However, the most important thing for Hunter is not necessarily just the damage they get, but also what they play from turns 1 to 4, if they're playing something that impacts the board. And Jab is so board-oriented that he decided to quick shot instead of develop the Mad Scientist.
Yeah, you see the Quartermaster in Trump's hand. This is a card that you only see in the slower, more mid-rangey versions of
that
Paladin.
confirms it for sure.
Combos well with Master for Battle, and there we see it. Summon 3/1/1 Silverhand Recruit, Sigvigo 1/4 weapon. That is the card that Trump would love to have right now. In case that Jab will be unable to clear those 1/1s, in combination with the Quartermaster, that can be a winning play.
Ooh. Alright, that Eldor Peacekeeper is going to help a lot. Trump did not have a good answer for this Misha.
Yeah. With a follow-up juggle on the juggler itself.
Ooh.
Oh,
wow, and he hits it.
That's a pretty big board play, because now if his opponent had Houndmaster or some opportunity to really benefit off that Misha, it's gotten a lot weaker.
Oh wow, there's a Ram Wrangler in Jab's hand right now. That is something we don't see often. I don't know if I've ever seen that in competitive Hearthstone.
Ram Wrangler is one of my favorite cards in the Grand Tournament, because yes, there are some King Crushes, the Captain's Parrot combinations, but at the same time, it's something that you never know what to expect, and that's kind of the nature of Hearthstone sometimes. It can either shock you or disappoint you, unfortunately. Just kind of what Ram Wrangler does.
Trump has no idea how badly he needs to clear the board right now.
Right.
Just looking at from his point of view, it seems like Murloc Knight is fairly obvious after taking out the Cobra.
Right.
But if he saw the cards, he would probably go with the Consecration, but how can you make that call? He's definitely not expecting to see a Ram Wrangler on turn 5 from Jab.
Well, it goes both ways, too. I mean, now Trump, if he decides to develop the Murloc Knight, his opponent can't exactly deal with it easily either. Instead, Trump chose to go for the Shield Mini-Bot and tries to go for a more board-centric play as well.
Yep, he wants to hero power on the same turn as he plays the Murloc Knight. That's quite often the play. And another thing to consider from Trump's point of view is that for turn 5 he has the Quartermaster, and so he wants to get the 1/1 on board right now.
True. I'm having some scary flashbacks right now, Dan.
Some PTSD withdrawals. Well, we'll see. I mean, the Ram Wrangler can summon anything from Young Dragonhawk to a King Crush.
Okay, that's fair.
That's pretty solid.
I think that's like average.
Yeah, that's pretty much average. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that Ram Wrangler can summon stats equivalent to itself, 4/2 is kind of like a 3/3 in distribution.
I believe the math behind it is something like 3 power and 4 toughness on average, but that is a 4/2. It has a stealth. It's right middle of the road.
So Trump didn't actually have a strong turn 5 play because he is aiming to play that Murloc Knight turn 6, but because Jungle Panther is the minion that came out of Ram Wrangler, Trump now has a pretty clean Consecration. He's going to be really happy about that.
Absolutely. Consecration is not going to be mana efficient, and he picks up the Equality, so that might be a little bit tempting to hold on to the Consecration potentially. But it is really clean, so I think he might go for it. But there's a lot of options.
You could just slam the Quartermaster. I mean, this is a matchup that is really... You're probably not going to have the time to set up that Muster for Battle combo that we talked about earlier. You might as well get your 2/5 on the board now, trade into the 3/3. I can definitely see him making that play, especially because of that Equality draw.
Yeah, with that combination is so powerful for Trump. He knows that even later on it's going to be great. And for now, that Quartermaster at 2/5, if that Panther was to come out of stealth, the Quartermaster would just perfectly match up against it.
Well, the Golden Savannah High Main drops onto the board, and this is a card that Hunter wants to hit on turn 6, but the board state usually looks more favorable for the Hunter leading up to this point. And Jab chooses to reveal the Jungle Panther, opening it up to an attack because he feels like the High Main is the bigger threat, so I can try to get this attack in maybe once, maybe even twice with this Jungle Panther.
That is such a great call from Jab. I would have been tempted to keep it in a stealth, but it would have just died the Consecration for sure.
Yeah, Trump has so many tough decisions this turn. Well, really 2. He can make the Murloc Knight play, or he can Equality, run his Divine Shield minion into the High Main, and then play Consecration. Both plays are really strong. He's already seen Ram Wrangler. He might suspect a second one in Jab's deck. There's a lot of value in just clearing these minions off the board.
It looks like he's going for the Murloc Knight instead.
Board control. All right, well, this Murloc Knight summons a random Murloc, and there's a lot of choices. Some of them impact the board. Some of them are just 2/1s that don't really do much. But point notwithstanding, it's still a minion that is hard to deal with for the Hunter, unless he has to use his Unleash the Hounds right here to clear.
There we go, no hesitation, goes for the Unleash. He just got another one from the top, so that also makes it more easy to make that play. He wants to use the second one in combination with the Starving Buzzard for sure. For the first one, no need to hold on to that one, goes for the easy clear here. Well, it's not a full clear, but it's close.
One thing that's also interesting to note too is that Jab has the very old school Hunter combination of the Buzzard with the Unleash combination. The Buzzard draws a card whenever you summon a beast, whether you play a minion or you summon minions through Unleash the Hounds.
Double equality. Trump definitely expecting to see a lot of Control Warlocks in this tournament. But no need for equality right now, he can just trade in that and go for the Consecration. Zombie Chow hero power after us, fairly solid.
Yeah, Trump actually had the option there, though, to Consecration first, and then, you know, run the 2-5 into the Hyena. You'd be left with a 2-3 and have your opponent have a 2-2. But
oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, he's seen that Ram Wrangler. He really doesn't want to leave Jab with any beasts on the table. It makes a lot of sense.
Oh,
yeah.
a second Savannah.
And Houndmaster is also possible, so that's probably another thing to consider.
Yikes. That's not very good. Considering that second Savannah Hyena is hard to deal with, the second Quartermaster is also a little awkward because the mana right now is only 8. And you can put 2 3/3s, but it still doesn't control the state of the board that well. And there is a trap that you have to account for.
Yep, most likely a freezing trap. Trump is going to test for it first. He doesn't want to trigger snakes, just in case it would be that.
Yep, it is freezing. Now he has to decide, do I just slam his Tyrion on curve? I like it.
Absolutely. Nothing else seems to come even close to the power level of the Fortune here. Can be sometimes tricky to play that minion because it does cost that 8 mana. Has an opportunity here, just goes for it.
Wow, if you're having flashbacks from some of the other things, but the Buzzard Unleash drawing 2 cards and being able to pop the Divine Shield very cheap.
And he's going to draw 2 additional cards from the Hyenas. From the
you're
Highmane.
right! That is so big. Refilling almost the entire hand here from Jab. Picking up some really crucial cards and clearing the state of the board.
That was a huge swing in Jab's favor right now, and it's going to be tough to lose with your Jab right now.
Luckily, we have some Blizzard employees in the building. Maybe Starving Buzzard's a little too strong.
That's right. Gotta knock it down to 9 mana, make it a 1/1.
Right.
You know, the Buzzard just won't always fully go away. Sometimes it just makes an appearance.
Yep. Still very powerful there.
The Antique Heal bot here is a pretty important draw for Trump if he wants to stabilize you know, the health. He doesn't want to be in a position where Hunter can continue to just ignore the minions on board and go for the win.
Oh yeah, and with that second trap up, it's most likely going to be another freezing trap.
Yeah.
The Antique Heal is just a perfect card to try to attack with into that trap.
Hunter is just such a dangerous deck when you get that many cards and this much mana late in the game. It's so easy to just make haymaker after haymaker plays that just will overwhelm almost any deck. If Trump had his second Consecration here, yes, he could deal with the board, but Jab could just refill all over again.
Quite often in those kind of spots, on turn 8, on turn 9, the Hunter would be out of cards, but with that Buzzard Unleash, he got those 4 extra cards with from the Highmane and the Unleash. Just like the game completely turned around.
This is an argument against running 2 equalities in the Paladin deck because sometimes you do draw both of them and they're slightly redundant. So yes, equality is an incredibly powerful card, but Trumps haven't even found application for 1 of them, let alone using 2. So this is also an awkward hand for Trump. Meanwhile, Hunter is a deck that recently struggles with card draw. Usually you just kind of play threat for threat, and sometimes you're left just playing off the top of your deck. But not in Jab's case. He's got so much power, so much mana, and I believe that's just enough right here.
Yeah, that's going to
end the game.
Wow.
Let's do it. Jab takes off to a 2-0 lead against Trump. Starting off really strong in his first series.
2-0 lead. Not the end of the world, but Jab is very, very close here to ending the series. So what's going to happen here in game number 3? Trump's chosen to switch decks. Jab's, of course, has to switch decks because of Conquest.
Yep. Jab has to play his mage now. Yeah, it's likely to be Tempo Mage, but we're not absolutely sure. It could be Freeze, but in the meta right now, it seems very unlikely that anybody would bring a Freeze Mage, simply because of the popularity of both Druid and the Warrior. So those are bad matchups.
Tempo Mage is the mage deck that Trump predicted out of Jab, and it's definitely a deck that's been picking up in popularity a lot this past week. It's very strong. You can fight for the early game board against almost any deck. Things like Arcane Missiles even, a card that saw very little play until this expansion, is really strong against cards like Muster for Battle that have become popular. So I think that if this is Tempo Mage, Jab definitely has a favorable matchup in Paladin. He's going to have a tough time against Trump's Warrior, and Druid can really go either way.
That's right, that's right. But it's not impossible for him to come back. Conquest is a format where, because you have to win with every deck, sometimes you're as strong as your weakest deck, at least against the lineup, right? If Tempo Mage happens to be very weak against all the classes from Trump, then maybe he will continue his road to become the America's champion. We got an opportunity to sit down with Trump and talk to him about last year's BlizzCon champion, which came from America. It's Firebat. Let's hear what he had to say.
And what was it like in the qualifier to beat the former world champion, Firebat?
Beating Firebat was a bit of a bittersweet experience. For one, we have met in events such as the Team Archon League, and we both like fried chicken, for example. So he's a really cool guy. It's bittersweet for another reason, other than just beating someone that I like. It's because one of the big mistakes I made was in the Firebat game. I don't necessarily think that I outplayed him, but I still beat him. I'm going to have to make sure that I conduct myself in a way that a player who beat the World Championship can play.
Much easier said than done, though. You know, it's one of those hard things where you're here, you're competing, and definitely nerves aren't part of it, but you always have to be very wary because it feels like all 8 of these players are capable of taking it. You can't really underestimate anyone.
Absolutely. Just a very strong lineup, all 8 of these players.
Yeah, Trump is down 2-0 right now, but he might be able to turn it around. We'll see. Wow, and Jab is bringing that Tempo Mage. And we see an Arcane Blast. I know that, Reynard, you have been playing a lot with this card. What do you think of Arcane Blast in Tempo Mage?
I love Arcane Blast. It's a card that seems like, okay, I need spell power to make this strong, but in reality, once you play with it enough, you just see how powerful a 2 damage for 1 mana effect is, especially when you have cards like Flame Wake in your deck. One of the strongest 3-drops with cheap spells in the game. I like Trump's strategy here, though. That's the big thing. He opens with Paladin, which is actually his most difficult matchup. He knows that in order to win the series, he has to win with all 3 of his decks at some point, and by just playing Paladin again, even if he loses, he at least doesn't have to reveal his other decks.
Right. And maybe the Paladin is also something else. He's not 100% sure about Jab's mage, what kind of mage it is, and Paladin maybe doesn't change its mulligan that much. So on the other classes, there might be more decisions that are based on what type of list Jab is running. But with the Paladin, the mulligan is more or less the same every time, I guess.
I've also been seeing some of these mages experiment with secrets like Effigy a lot, and it's had some mixed results. I like the counter spell though, because it is a big curveball that some people don't expect, and it could be huge if you're trying to board clear with Consecration or Flame Strike or Swipe.
Wow, Grand Crusader.
The Grand Crusader in a mage deck. The Grand Crusader is supposed to pull up a Paladin card when you play it.
Wow, I'm speechless. I've never seen that card in competitive play.
I mean, we've seen some of it in the America's Championship leading up to this, right?
That's right.
Some of the South American players
is that so?
We also saw it in the European Championships. Not at the European Championships, sorry. We also saw it being played right before the European Championships. I believe Hoy, who did compete in both of those, was also a big fan of this card specifically.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow. I'm excited to see how it works out. What card he's going to pull with that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad ones you can potentially get, like those 1-mana secrets. But I guess if there's one deck, one strategy with that can get some value out of those Eye for an Eye and 1-mana secret, it's going to be the Mage, because of the way that the secrets work with the cards like Flame Waker and Antonidas.
So here's the beauty of Arcane Blast. Compare this to something like...
oh, that's a little bit rough, but still better than getting those hits on the face.
Compare this to something like a Mirror Image this turn. It's a lot stronger of an effect. You deal with more minions on average.
It is true. However, the Flame Waker doesn't clear the entire board, and that gives Trump some leverage. Like, well, if I can have this minion stay on the board, maybe I can threaten Quartermaster. My opponent will waste 2 mana on his following turn, using his hero power to clear it. Trump, in the meantime, I feel like the priority always is to kill Flame Workers. It's one of those minions that has super taunt just because of what it can do impact-wise. You leave it up, they draw cards with spells, they control the board with spells, and you're always regretting not killing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever you see that card, you want it out of the way as fast as possible. I would be shocked if we didn't see a Crucible champion here, because something like Unstable Portal into Flame Cannon is possible against the Shredder. There's a lot of things that can go wrong if you leave that card up.
It definitely would be tough for Trump to ever build a board, but he does deal with it. Ooh. And now Jab is running the situation where he's drawn cards that he'd rather not see until later in the game. He's seen things like Fireball, his Secrets, which he'd rather be pulling off a Mad Sign, his Grand Crusader and Ragnaros, which he doesn't want to draw until later.
Yep. The psychology of the Secret, too, is also very powerful because there are secrets like Mirror Entity, which copies a minion that you've played from the hand. Yep. And so Trump says, even if you have Mirror Entity, I can kill it with my True Silver champion against their Harrison Jones.
Yep, pretty good. Flame Cannon here going 1-for-1 with the Harrison Jones. Just he's hanging in there, and he has a nice curve for the following turns. Turn 6 Grand Crusader, turn 7 Dr. Boom, turn 8 Ragnaros the Firelord. So if you go to these turns, that's as strong as it gets.
But he does lose initiative onto the board, and Trump does have a True Silver champion already up. So the Grand Crusader will get challenged easily onto the board here.
Oh yeah, that is true.
What do we get?
Consecration! That can be huge, although we will have to see the application of it because right now Trump is just fighting with small, singular targets here. Now, one thing that's also going through Trump's mind is, what if this is effigy? What if this is replace a Grand Crusader with another 6-mana minion that could be equally devastating or more?
Oh yeah, that could be an effigy. It's unlikely, but it could be that. And if he was to kill the Grand Crusader right now and there was something like maybe Sylvanas Windrunner or a Cairn Bloodhoof coming out of it, it would be a disaster.
I wonder if there's a halfway play too. Sometimes the best ways to play around secrets is to force your opponent to do everything on their turn. So if you make the Grand Crusader never have a good trade, it can always be in an awkward position where it has to kill itself, so that way the secrets can activate on your turn and get the effigy value. But we all know it's not effigy in the first place.
Yeah, he could just kill it right here, but if you Trump, it's not an easy decision. He seems to be going for the Elder Peacekeeper instead. Probably just leaving that up.
Yeah, you might just let it live, right? I mean, it's only a 1/5. Yes, it'll kill one of your tokens every turn, but ultimately it's not a huge deal. You have a lot of initiative here.
Oh, he's still killing it off. Oh.
Wow.
Interesting. That was
interesting. Now he knows that it's not going to be effigy, so he's like, okay, not Mirror Entity, not effigy. The likelihood is Counterspell.
Wow, that was really interesting.
Yeah, Trump really
overkilled it by 3.
Yeah, he values his tokens a lot, right? He plays Quartermaster in his deck. He respects how powerful that combo is, and I mean, with the Muster for Battle in hand, if you were to draw that card next turn, that could be pretty strong, if not for the Counterspell.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What does that communicate to his opponent? Does it make Jab think he has the Quartermaster?
That's true. There's a lot of mind games involved in that.
Yep. Doesn't have it quite yet. Trump has fairly easy way to just deal with that Dr. Boomy, what's already on the board. With that Elder Peacekeeper and the Piloted Shredder, he could trade for that and then maybe finish off the Boombots with the Master for Battle.
I think he would have to start by trading into the Dr. Boom, just in case the Boombots kill off one of your larger minions.
Absolutely. You don't want to see those Boombots take out your Shredder or the Elder Peacekeeper.
The important question is, what does Trump fill out with his mana? He did pick up the Shielded Minibot, which makes also True Silver Champion, developing that a possibility. Normally, Muster for Battle is very good impact onto the board too, but you're also aware of Counterspell. Right. So it's one of the things like, what do you toss away before that to make it less impact?
He needs to keep the Counterspell in mind right now. Is he going to ignore that?
Oh, it might equality right here. 4 to the face, twice over. Consecration first to proc the Counterspell.
Oh, yeah.
This might look counterintuitive, like, what are you doing? That's 7 health. But Trump knows it's Counterspell, and a perfect workaround allows him to kill Dr. Boom, keep his board without having equality have too much of a drawback.
Well done, and really good Boombots for Trump there. Still at 21 HP, it doesn't look too scary.
Look at how much damage Jab is sitting on, though.
That's true, though.
Yeah, Consecration here. Ooh, I mean, he did get the Equality Consecration combo.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, but Trump picking up a Vitality Totem. Quite often that is not a card you want to see from the Shredder.
Goodness.
He was running low on resources, but Dr. Boom comes down. What an impact that card has on this board.
Yeah. Absolutely.
He's a super worker.
That Vitality Totem, it's not only going to heal for 4 here, but it's also going to soak 4 damage on next then potentially.
Right. I mean, Jab's one of those things like, I don't want to let that thing live too long. Spellslinger coming into the hand.
Soulfire's pretty
good.
A couple
of Warlock cards coming into the hand.
Yep.
Very interesting, considering that Soulfire does allow him to get some board control.
So now that Jab's lost the board, he has to play his Fireballs defensively as removal. So this is going to turn the game into an attrition war, which really is what the Paladin wants. Paladin wants to slow the game down, and win a longer game by just drawing higher impact threats at a certain point than the mage deck.
Absolutely. Eventually he will find his Leon hands and the Tyrion Fortune. Cuts like that. The Paladin has way higher quality on the top decks than the mage does.
All right, Trump has a lot of weapons in hand. True Silver is the highest impact to just snipe one of these minions 1-for-1.
He definitely needs to start getting weapon charges out. He can only attack once a turn, so True Silver definitely the play here.
It's a bit of a problem for Trump right now that all he has are those weapons.
I would love to see something like an Arcane Missile even, or another Flame Waker. I think those are the kinds of cards that would be able to clean up.
Oh,
there we go.
Speaking of it.
Flame Waker comes into the hand, and that could potentially have big impact. But we've also seen some disastrous results happen.
See those boombots? Oh, well, that's still awesome for Trump.
Yeah, that has to sting if you're Jab, because if it shoots another boombot, kills even the Pilot Shredder, everything just completely destroys on your board.
Yeah.
Oh,
Flame
man,
Waker goes down.
That is almost a board clear, although
Tyrion 14, but there's the mirror entity
This is the mirror entity.
so he cannot play it.
Well, that depends entirely on how ambitious Trump is.
yeah, he says, you know what, I've seen a counter spell, but most likely he's not running 2. So
he's
he
definitely
probably
gonna-
has that mirror entity.
Yeah. This True Silver attack is going to show Trump that it's not FG. You're not going to expect a second counter spell, so by process of elimination, this pretty much leaves Trump assuming it's mirror energy.
Yeah, for sure. Like Trump knows he's never gonna risk the Tyrion in this situation. If he had something like Harrison Jones in his hand, then maybe he could go for it and just kill his opponent's Tyrion off and then draw those cards. But we saw Trump play his Harrison earlier on in the game, so that's not gonna happen. He needs to find a small minion to give the jab.
Trump's also caught in a very awkward position where, of course, he wants to play Must for Battle and control the board, but getting the ability to trade in with the shielded mini buy against the 2-1 also kind of stinks because you want to Cog Hammer and get that Divine Shield guaranteed. It's very awkward to say the least.
All right, well, Cog Hammer comes down. Always a good idea to use your Divine Shield right away against the mage that can always just hero power that away.
Yep. So definitely a series of tough choices. Cog Hammer was no more than just Hand of Protection. Well, actually, she gets on.
Wow.
Wait, what?
What is that?
A Blingtron.
Man after my own heart.
That's right.
That's incredible.
You copied your deck, right, Ned? Just like always, I guess. Ragnaros comes down. It's not the best for Ragnaros, but if it hits the face...
Ooh. Yeah, there's a fair chance that the Ragnaros would stick around for another... Oh,
really big draw
gets the
here.
Juggler. He can play the Juggler first and then go for Tyrion Fortune.
That's right.
Trade for the Juggler.
I mean, Ragnaros still doesn't get dealt with. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, so if the Rag connects to face, then Fireball and 2 pings could potentially do it.
Put your faith in the light.
Trump is out of healing in hand, and that really is the winning play for Jab at this point. He missed last turn, but he has one more chance. Needs to snipe face.
That's right. Trump doesn't want to take too much damage. Normally what you want to do with this Light's Justice is use the small minions that you get from Muster for Battle, trade off with your own health and this Light's Justice, but in this case, he's weird. He might die if he's careless.
This is actually a very tough turn for Jab. If he knows he needs to get 2 hero powers in to win with a Rag shot, so he has to decide between aiming at the face with that hero power or hitting a token. Hitting a token increases his odds. Oh wow, he's gonna go
this
for
is
this.
interesting.
Yeah, and of course he also has the Blingtron in hand, which that is additional burn hypothetically, but you also help give Paladin some resources.
He can destroy that Ashbringer with that Blingtron.
That's the cool thing about Blingtron. It kind of has that Harrison effect. You negate the weapon that your opponent has.
Whoa, that's a pretty big snipe.
Sure
Heal
is.
bot, though, that gives Trump some huge leverage to be able to use some of his life now to clear the state of the board.
Absolutely, and with that Soulfire, he can take out the Mana Worm. So
That's
Trump
right.
actually has access to full clear here. With those 2 1/1s and the Ashbringer, he can kill the Ragnaros. With the Soulfire, take out the Mana Worm. He does take 8 damage using the weapon, but he gets it back from the anti-kill.
We do want to point out that even though we saw that Blingtron on screen says equip a random weapon, there is a weapon you can't equip, which is the Ashbringer. So you will replace Ashbringer with something usually worse, outside of Gorehowl and sometimes Doomhammer.
Can't get Fist to Jiraxis either. It's
That's
a little
right.
disappointing.
Can't get the Blood Fury, the hands of Jiraxis. Trump, is there an alternative line here that we're not really considering that Trump's evaluating right now?
Well, he could let the Ragnaros live.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I don't think I'm a huge fan of that play. But I could understand that if he wants to go face with the Ashbringer and put his opponent on a clock, but most likely scenario is going to be that he's going to take out the dragon. Seems like he is going for it.
Jab's like, seriously, Soulfire, empty hand. What am I playing against? Is it really a paladin? It's hard to say. I mean, both these guys are down to their last resources and will need some card draw off the top.
Such a close game.
Here we go. 5-2 is pretty, or sorry, 3-2 is pretty strong.
Yeah, the Eagle Horn bow.
Horn bow. There's some synergy when he picks up those secrets. Yeah, there should be one more meter entry remaining in Jab's deck, so and maybe some extra charges.
Meanwhile, Trump's weapon was neutered quite significantly. 2-3 could be anything from Cog Hammer to the Stormforge Axe.
Jab's hero power gives him a lot of leverage with weapons like that. Definitely.
Whoa! Big draw for Trump off the top. Lay on hands not only allows him to draw the cards, but also stabilizes the damage.
And also shielded minibot and the knife juggler, so he has some options here. Most likely we can see, well, maybe even hero power. Because anything if he plays a shielded minibot, the shield could get pinged off.
That's true. He could save the mini-bot for next turn to get an extra juggle, but he'd also has to want to worry about his opponent's weapon charge.
That's true.
So the shielded mini-bot will beat out a hero power plus a weapon charge.
He does go for the value here.
Of course, Trump.
Yeah.
I'll show them.
Mad scientist.
It's not what Jab wants to see, but to be fair, he's already seen Grand Crusader, Dr. Boom, Ragnaros. What other high-end threats are really in his deck?
There could be an Antonius or something. Juskar Trueheart, now that is an insane carding paladin if it can go long enough. And I'm ready to say that Trump's not really playing a mid-range paladin. I think he's gotten balls enough to play the control paladin. An archetype thought extinct from Hearthstone.
I did not expect to see this deck in the first match of the day.
I love to see Murloc Knight here over the Justicar. I think it's really important to start pushing out those fish as soon as possible.
Wow, that is a great one for Trump.
Yeah, now the part about the Stiflin Spirit Walker is that it draws a card when the Murloc dies, and that Murloc Knight definitely needs to die.
I was hoping to hit the knife on potentially the 3-3 to be able to take that one out instead. No secrets remaining in Jab's deck. And another scientist.
That is really bad for Jab, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's close to the worst thing he could have done.
Yeah, outside of like another mana worm. I can't do anything.
That's right.
Well, Jab says
has a plan.
Yeah. He's like, I think I'll just play Hunter from this point on. His best chance, though, it feels like has been generally eliminated because didn't he use both of his fireballs already?
He has, but you know, maybe he plays something like Pyroblast. I mean, that's a card I've seen once in a while. You never know.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Oh, yeah. Can he find lethal here somehow by playing the equality and... No. He needs like old Murkai, I believe.
There's a chance he gets the second Spellslinger, too, if he plays 2.
I'm wondering if there's a chance Trump can also lethal his opponent.
Yeah, Trump.
If he juggles correctly, but I think he can't.
No, I don't think so. I think it's the only chance for Trump to lethal here would be old Murkai or maybe the War Leader. How much is the War Leader gonna be if he gets that?
Extra
4
damage.
Oh, I think is that
lethal? 5, 8, 12,
with the
13,
weapon. Yeah,
17 damage.
More than enough. Trump is going to take this game.
That's the power of Murloc Knight.
Yeah, turns out Murloc Knight is pretty good.
Thank you, Crip.
No problem. Of course, Trump, he was down 0-2, a very important win. And you were pointing out, Reynad, this could potentially be the hardest deck for him to overcome, although it's yet to be seen because we do have that Control Warrior and we have a Druid. Trump playing very slow decks. It's very interesting. He's not playing the very commonly seen decks of the Patron version of the Warrior, nor even the Handlock. He's got a Control Paladin, a Control Warrior, and well, we haven't seen the Druid yet, so it could be anything.
That was definitely the most important win for Trump to get. That was a deck that has a very tough time against Tempo Mage. This card sequenced in the right way, he got the win, and now it's really anybody's game. He can easily come back from a 2-0 deficit at this point.
With those two decks going up against Tempo Mage, it's quite possible. Even though you look at the score, it's 2-1 right now, so Jab should be a big favorite. He might not be that big of a favorite. I would still give him the slight edge, but it's close.
Yeah, surely. But Jab also did have a little bit of awkward draws in that game. He missed one of the most important timings in the mid-game, which is ultimately what you want to be doing. From turns 4 to 6, you want to definitely be leveraging your boards for Tempo Mage to win the game. He missed exactly that. He had the beginning and the end, but no meat in the middle.
Turn 4 and turn 5 both really weak for Jab there, and kind of lost the tempo. And when you're playing Tempo Mage, that's something that you really don't
Meanwhile, in Trump land, is there anything else you could want for early game tools, Rayned?
This is about as good as it gets. That's a dream hand for Trump. He can deal with almost anything Jab throws out, and unless we see something like a mirror image at this point, a card that's very strong against Warrior, for example, these weapons are just going to wreak havoc on Jab's board.
You were actually saying for this specific matchup, that's probably the only thing that Mirror Image has an advantage over Arcane Blast, because Arcane Blast is great for killing a single target, of course, and getting the Flame Waker tempo, but Mirror Image is good against those weapon charges.
As good as Trump's hand is, the hand from Jab is not bad either. Again, he needs that mid-game. He needs to find those turn 4 and 5 plays. But with those double scientists, getting 2 secrets, not bad. That is really good for the tempo.
I mean, it's interesting how those small card choices can make such big impacts in a game. If that Arcane Blast, for example, was a mirror image last game even, that would have protected Flame Waker against True Silver Champion, and that could have been a completely different game.
And you know what? Even though Jab does get this tempo, though, Counterspell is not entirely too effective when it only blocks things like the coin. So there are some implications of Jab getting this spells and secrets but not having much value off of them.
Absolutely, that coin for Trump is really a big deal here. He will be able to take out the Counterspell without any trouble, really.
Alright, and weapons are so good against secrets, specifically against Mage, because it doesn't trigger anything. It triggers spells, it doesn't trigger minions, it just kind of impacts the board, and that's not what you want. The only thing that's good against the weapons are usually Effigy, which we don't even know if is in Jab's deck at this point. Probably not, because we've seen Mad Scientist pull everything by now.
Oh wow, is he gonna go for the unstable portal here? There's going to be some extra cards for Trump.
Well, it could also dodge twice and hit the face. If it does, then there's no cards being drawn from this turn.
Wow, going for the Arcane Blast, giving Trump 2 cards, but he knew that the Acolyte would be drawing 2 cards regardless because of the Death Spite. Okay. And then the Arcane Blast, even though that's not good value for it, it looks like it's not going to get much better later on, so might as well just use it.
Absolutely. Now, Trump does know that Mirror Entity is up currently, so he has to be very aware of what's happening. So if he chooses to give his opponent Armor Smith, that's the least offensive thing to what he can give him, right? Like, Armor Smith's a very defensive card, so Jab can't really convert that to offense.
Yeah, he could potentially bash first here on the Flame Waker, because he doesn't want to give his opponent the extra armor after using the Death Spite, so that would allow him for the full clear.
Although he does have to coin before that if he wants to give up the coin for a counterspell.
That is true. Yeah, he needs to keep that in mind.
Yes, there are 2 secrets up right now. One is counterspell, the other is mirror.
Yep. Goes for the coin on that.
Very good sequencing too. So I know Trump was always worried about maybe his technical play wouldn't be up to par compared to the regionals, but this is a full board clear.
Yeah. Well, the sequencing was actually a tiny bit off. It's 1 extra armor. That's not a big deal. He could have used the bash first because now there's the Armor Smith, but that's really tiny.
I'm alright giving Jab the extra armor to play around maybe something like Effigy.
Yeah, no, you're actually correct, Savit. So there was that one or a couple extra armor points.
We saw this both of the secrets in the previous game. It was only Mirror Entity and Counter.
That's right, and he never saw any more, so he knows exactly.
Yeah, because like the Mad Scientist died and nothing else was pulled afterwards.
Correct.
Yeah, but there we go, Grand Crusader. Oh, and he picks up some extra cards.
Basically, Arcane Intellect number 2 or 3. All right, well. Trump does pick up ways to deal with the Grand Crusader. He has Slam and Fire War Axe. He also has minions he can play in response to.
Yep.
Actually, he's got several plays. He can also Suicide Shield Slam and play the Sludge Belcher.
I kind of like just running in the Armor Smith, using the Execute or the Shield Slam and then developing the Belcher. Belcher is really good minion to get out here.
Yeah, given the option between Shield Slam and Execute, I'm not surprised to see Trump use the Execute. The Warriors nowadays have such an easy time getting lots of armor, and that Shield Slam is just a much more flexible card.
True that. Now, Trump normally would be like, oh, Dr. Boom, oh, whatever should I do? It's like, well, I've got Big Game Hunter. I think I'm okay. And that's going to be a full board clear on Trump's side.
Wow. That Boombot going where Trump wants it.
Yep.
Warrior can take the face damage, but he doesn't want that Sludge Belcher going down.
And another Boombot to face.
Bad news for Jab. He got his Boombots nullified for practically nothing, and Armor Up negates basically half that damage. Uh-oh. He's going to need some help from potentially Flame Waker or whatever he can get off the top of his deck.
Azure Strike, well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, Jab's got a lot of cards to work with, and Unstable Portal can make dreams come true. So I've seen it firsthand.
Well, I mean, some of these scenarios, it's just like you don't expect it, and then all of a sudden, Unstable Portal pulls Black Knight, and it just kills Sludge Belcher. You're like, what? No one plays that card since 2014! And then you die.
Deathwing?
Well, definitely wouldn't be enough mana to play. Oh my god!
What
a Kodo Rider!
That thing?
All right, right now, what does this card do?
Kodo Rider?
Yeah.
Well, apparently for 3 mana now. It's a 3/5. With Inspire, make another 3/5 Kodo. So you can generate a massive board using your hero power very quickly. That's a hell of a card to get.
That 3/5 sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I guess we find out what Inspire can do with low mana cost. Jab is opting to keep the Kodo Rider, because even though it looks the appealing play right now, it is challenged on board relatively easily.
Yeah.
You want to play it on a turn where your hero power actually makes an impact. A turn where you want to use that.
Makes sense, makes sense.
Absolutely.
Now,
Trump does have an easy way to clear this. The Big Game Hunter trading favorably for the Azure Drake. Could take out the Monoverse with either the weapon or the Belcher. I would probably lean towards using the Belcher because that's the last weapon that he has right now, and the Belcher being at 2 toughness instead of 4 is not that big of a deal.
He also has the option of slamming the Drake using the weapon and then keeping the Big Game Hunter alive to challenge whatever comes out next.
I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite play too.
For Sylvanas.
Yeah, that looks solid.
Yeah, the problem with using Brawl here is that it's just, it kills your own minions too, so you don't want to necessarily impact it that way. Plus, Brawl could be your answer to the Kodo Rider if it gets disastrous.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are we taking it slow or playing aggressive with Sylvanas onto the board here?
Oh, you slamming.
Yeah, probably just throw it out there.
Yeah.
You want more stats in the board.
You know what? I like it too because Alexstrasza, so you have the opportunity to just maybe even Alexstrasza your opponent and bring him down to what? Like 3 HP?
So we mentioned this earlier. This is one of the harder matchups for Jab, and this is why. You have cards like Arcane Missile in your deck, which just have kind of a low impact against Control Warrior. Not bad, though.
Let's get moving.
The Kodo Rider is going to come down here.
Let's get moving.
And shut down the Big Game Hunter, summon another 3/5, and Sylvanas will win this brawl. And Trump has a lot of good opportunities here. Now, he can also make it to potentially steal only.
Yeah, I think he should suicide the slime off first before going for the brawl. You really don't want that slime to win the brawl.
Does he have to brawl at the same time?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Maybe you just kill off the Kodo Rider.
He could actually steal the Kodo Rider by using the slime and execute on one of the other minions, then using the Sylvanas, shield slamming his own Sylvanas.
And stealing the Kodo Rider.
Yeah, but I think from this attack, it seems like he's going to go for the brawl. I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't. The slime might win now.
He could get punished by this.
He could get little slime. Ooh. No,
Sylvanas winner. Yeah.
She's the queen of the board. Get out of my game, says Trump. Sylvanas to Jab. Following up this with the shield block is perfectly fine if you want to drop Alexstrasza the following turn, because you only have 10 mana the next turn. You can't do shield block and Alexstrasza.
Jab's looking for a flame cannon, some lucky arcane missiles.
Ooh. Unstable portal. Another Kodo Rider?
Another Kodo Rider. Savitz, you are a dirty man. Now, Pilot Shredder does challenge Sylvanas very appropriately because of the sequence that the minions were played. The Death Rattle's triggers in the order the minions came onto the board. So Sylvanas will trigger first, Pilot Shredder will trigger second, meaning that they won't steal the minion that comes out.
Yep, Trump does have the option here to steal. He could go for Alexstrasza on his opponent first, then hit him for face, maybe shield some. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or if he wants to keep his Sylvanas, this is also a fine play.
Yeah, you know what? He's gotten this far with Sylvanas, might as well just go the entire distance.
Right.
Trump is a committed man.
Yeah, and Trump saw last turn that Jab did not have an easy way to deal with the Sylvanas. So if he didn't have a way to deal with it last turn, it's unlikely that he could deal with it now.
Right, and there's bigger problems than the Sylvanas. He might die, so he's going to arcane the missiles.
I would have liked to see the fireball come out first. You don't want to hit that.
Okay.
It's pretty small, but yeah.
I mean, it works out fine because he's got the Ironfold Rifleman for a full board clear. That's definitely an application you don't see every day.
Wow, Jab finds a full clear. This game is not over.
Wow, great sequencing here to be able to get everything.
That's Solemn Vigil value.
That's an incredible turn from Jab right there. That's so powerful.
Oh!
But Trump gets the boom.
It feels like Dr. Boom comes to save the day.
Once again, what a card.
What a bro. Dr. Boom coming into it. And Trump says, all right, he already used the fireballs. Surely he needs just Flame Strike or something to clear the board.
Let's see what he gets.
Forked Lightning.
Confused. And the Forked Lightning.
weapon to potentially change the tides. King's Defender comes into him, there's no taunts or anything, and even if he did, Jab would still be in trouble.
Is that a mech weapon?
The wrench, yeah.
Wrench, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's hilarious. Because these boom bots are mechs, the Cogmaster's wrench actually gets a buff.
Oh my goodness, we might potentially see I was going to say that we might see a confused lethal, but it's not going to happen. That armor smith is going to go down.
That's right. Jab going to buy himself some time. Frostbolt the Dr. Boom.
Yep.
Oh,
that's going to do it.
Trump looked like he was down 0-2. It's going to even up the series. Grommash Hellscream will end the game the way he always does.
Yes,
there we go.
Please just confuse over that. There we go. Trump taking game 3. Game 4, sorry.
Grommash went into Corehound mode.
Yeah.
And just ended the game.
Got him.
That confuse wasn't BM. No, I believe he needed that flip.
That's right. It's like, maybe I can wait a little longer. I'm not sure. I'm a little confused. Game number 4 is in the books, bringing us to game number 5. The winner of this goes on to the second round of the group, and if you win that, you advance to the semifinals. So a really big win here for Trump. And now Jab he was up 2-0. Now he lost 2 games in a row in this mage. Sure, it's good against Druid, but do you lose confidence at all going into this game at all?
I mean, as Jab, I wouldn't feel too bad about that loss, honestly. That's a matchup you know is hard right off the bat. You have a lot of cards that are low impact, like Arcane Missiles, Counterspell sometimes. You know, it's one that Jab knows could have gone either way. So it's going to come down to this Druid versus Mage matchup, one that can really go either way. It's really going to depend on the early cards that these players draw, who develops control of the board early, because... Right. You know, I mean, if Tempo Mage gets out of control early, Druid has a hard time coming back, but Druid does have the more powerful plays as well, where, you know, if Jab can't contest something like a Darnassus Aspirant or just a great Wild Growth draw happens, it could go either way.
Yeah, this matchup used to be really one-sided for in favor of the Mage, but now with those Darnassus Aspirants, there is this small minion, there's this perfect minion that you can throw into the Mirror Entity. Because Mirror Entities used to be very tricky to deal with, but with that Aspirant, you can not only get rid of it by giving your opponent a small minion, but they will get the downside from the Death Rattle by losing a Mana Crystal once it's killed.
That's right. Not to mention that Trump has full information on the Mage now. He knows these are the threats I have to worry about. I know he has Ragnaros. I know he has Dr. Boom. I know that he has these secrets specifically. That gives Trump a lot of power. He has the coin, so he can save that coin, hypothetically, assuming his curve works out okay, and use that for his benefit. And that opening hand does help Trump.
What a great hand
significantly. Jeez.
Oh, that Mana Worm draw is huge.
Absolutely. So now it's suddenly a nice hand from Jab as well.
That doesn't look flashy, but man, the difference between Tempo Mage with Mana Worm and Tempo Mage without is a completely different deck. It's night and day.
Yeah, it's Druid without Wild Growth. It's, you know, Warrior without War Axes. But you know, you're right, because a lot of the spells that you play early on just snowball. Sometimes Mana Worms can do upwards of half of your opponent's health.
Like Savit's mentioned, it's so important that Trump has the coin in this matchup. In a lot of matchups, you want to go first, but I mean, I've played hundreds of games of Tempo Mage this week. Well, maybe not that many, but it's definitely the deck I've played the most in the past week. And I can tell you right now, the Mana Worm coin hands, they're so hard to beat.
Wow, that tempo
2 mana, 4/3, it's not bad, right?
And it buffed the Mana Worm. Trump does pick up a Wrath here, but he probably wants to go for the second Wild Growth. This is interesting. I mean, you want to take out that 4 power right now.
Yeah, I like the Wrath play because if you Wild Growth now, it's not going to change the play you have next
Not
turn.
really, no, because he doesn't have a 5 drop, so he won't be able to use the 4 Mana Crystals next turn anyway, so it doesn't help.
Mad Scientist comes in the hand. So Jab does have ways to continue loading the board. One of the things that you don't want to do is just toss Flame Waker out to the board without having any follow-up plays. You usually do it if you have no other tempo, but in this case he has an alternative.
Oh, there's a 5 drop.
Alright, well, I think we're just going to see the 2 mana cards come out here. Darnassus Aspirant just as kind of a River Crocolisk, still a fine card, I think.
I probably wouldn't play the Aspirant because you know that there might be a Mirror Entity soon, and then it's going to be awkward with the Druid of the Claw or the Lore. Or do you have to play it? I guess there was no other options really.
Oh, Flame Waker with the Arcane Missiles, and Trump.
Such a big draw.
Yeah, feels like he's in disaster mode. 2 Mana Worms are on the board as well, gaining buffs.
I don't.
Ooh. So he has to lose the Scientist here.
Yeah, don't you want to lose the Scientist? I would have intentionally killed off the Scientist, but I think the secret is a really big deal.
Now, here's another thing. What if it's not the Mirror Entity? What if it ends up being the counter spell?
Yeah. Maybe Trump just wants to take that risk, just assume his counterspell, play Druid of the Claw, and hope for the best. He recognizes that he's behind, and the further you are behind in Hearthstone, the riskier you have to play.
That is true. He could also risk the counterspell here and just go for the Force of Nature, but it would only clear one minion, so I kind of like the Druid of the Claw more. Just hope for the best. It's a 50-50. It's completely a 50-50, because that's secret right there. It is random, and there's one of each in the deck from Jab.
Yeah, I like the ability just to try and be more aggressive as possible. He's costing this for no Mirrenity.
Whoa, and he's a counter spell. So that's good news for Trump. He's still in it.
Keeps him in the game, but that Shredder draw, very strong.
Very powerful indeed. Pilot Shredder loading up the board, making it really hard for Druid to get a full clear.
Jab really wanted to see something like a Flame Cannon or a Fireball there.
Absolutely. He doesn't get it. That's why, well, it doesn't do anything just yet, because he knows that there is that counter spell.
That's right. I think we're going to see him take out either Flame Waker or the 3/3 Mana Worm. It's really tough to decide which minion's better here. Probably the Flame Waker to kill.
Yeah, normally I think you would take out the Flame Waker, but he just saw that Jab was not playing any spells, so I would have blamed him for killing him on him.
Now, Trump is behind, but he's still not going to heal. He needs the cards to really come back in this game, and he knows that.
Oh, yeah.
And Jab. Oh, no! He whiffs on a draw. I mean, he does have things to play the following turns. Oh, wow. Vitality Totem is one of the worst he can get, too, because it doesn't actually attack or do anything on the board or even heal.
Yeah, that is worthless for Jab right now. He's the aggressor here, and he's already at full health, so that Vitality Totem doing absolutely nothing.
That's what Trump needed to get back into it, though. If that dropped a reasonable minion, it would have been close to impossible to come back from this kind of board.
Absolutely.
And I mean, hey, if you're going to brick on a card as Jab, Ragnaros is not bad, right? It's a decent curve from here on out.
I mean, it could be game-ending damage, too. Something that we don't consider is that Trump's at 12 health, so it could be critical levels.
Now, looking like a fairly straightforward double Shredders, because he can't deal with those.
Absolutely. This is a comeback train attempt from Trump, but Jab is still very close. I mean, even if he picks up fireballs in the next couple turns, it is something that he can push for, and that is damage.
Jump through, boom. And with the Frostbolt, if he gets the Ragnaros hit on Trump's face, it's just the Frostbolt thing could be enough soon.
If Trump could draw Savage Roar and just live one more turn,
that is pretty bananas.
It's a lot of damage.
Yeah. Jab forced to clear here. He knows that he would just, well, with the, yeah, I think that would have been lethal.
Oh my God!
What a god from the top.
The big game hunter to snipe Dr. Boom, and the Boombots, if they have low impacts by hitting Shredders for almost no damage. I mean, even revenge killing the big game hunter too.
So Trump's got options now. He still knows his counterspell. Does he just drop the Harrison and the BGH, or does he hero power and weave in a Darnassus Aspirant instead to take out a Boombot?
The thing is, I think he wants to keep Darnassus Aspirant for the mirror entity. Just shut down that mirror entity make it ineffective.
Probably, yeah.
I think Trump recognizes this game is over one way or another in the next few turns, and I don't know if mirror entity is going to come out in that time.
That is a good point.
That's also true, yeah.
There's only one in the deck. There's no scientists.
But I kind of like adding the Harrison on the board with the big game hunter. He could try to clear those Boombots, but I mean, you don't want to miss the date on face. He could potentially set up lead.
You need that damage.
He is going for the Aspirant. Alright. Let's see how it works out.
Oh, he's not going for the damage on
Oh
face.
my goodness.
That was close.
That was potentially disastrous.
Whoa.
Ancient Watcher absorbing a damage.
Yeah, not useless.
He might just use the swipe here. Yeah, alright. That was an opportunity to proc that counterspell. So Trump's taking a very defensive line of play. Let's clear the board as much as possible. Hope the Jab runs out of cards. He does have very few in hand. But Rag,
if it hits the face.
This is huge.
It's not what Trump wanted to see.
Let us go.
5 destinations.
Oh
no, the Shredder.
Shrinkmeister.
All right, that Force of Nature, not the worst. It's going to help Trump clear that Ragnaros after getting rid of the counterspell with a swipe.
Yep, seems like kind of the obvious play, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's the Force of Nature right there. In combination with the Savage Roar, that is a very powerful combo. It is considered the win condition of the Druid quite often.
Yeah, 2 cards in combination can deal 14 damage from an empty board. Pretty strong.
Absolutely. Not to mention that you can split the damage with Force of Nature as well. So even though it is a little clunky, 6 damage that spreads out exactly how you want it in chunks of 2. That can be very useful, specifically in the scenario to snipe one big minion if he has a board.
Yeah, very powerful card. At some point we used to see only one one force of nature for many players, but it is standard to play 2 right now, just because of how well it goes with the Emperor Tourism.
Uh-oh. Fireworks. Round number 3.
Where do those
Arcane missiles.
Alright, well, let's see where they go.
Oh! It's a little bit unfortunate for Jab.
Oh, that's really unlucky for Jab.
That was very unlucky, yeah.
Now this ends up dying, and he's going to forever be outside of the range of the Fireball. Because he's going to continue to hero power every turn, and Fireball, at best off the top for Jab, will do 7 damage, and Trump will be at 8.
Yeah, so he needs some kind of running, because he could potentially draw maybe a...
Man. And if Trump slams Wrath off this and just continues to push the board, I mean, Swipe is very appealing, but you still die to a Fireball.
You have to hero power. Trump's in a position where he recognizes that he can make Jab kind of draw dead in a sense, where there's no single card he could peel off the top that would win him the game.
Yeah, he definitely has to hero power. Otherwise, Jab might get like three or so turns that he can top deck the Fireball.
Right.
And in all of those turns, Jab will be dealing with 1 damage to Trump, while Trump is going to be healing for 1. So
you know what Trump is thinking, though? Trump is thinking, what if I can set up a 2-turn kill on my opponent, right. Draw Savage Roar so I can just end the game? But I do think going for a guaranteed no die in this scenario, it might even be slightly better.
Oh, he's going
ambitious. He's playing with fire.
Wow.
Will he be punished?
It is a game of inches this point.
Goes for base.
It doesn't change what he dies to.
A spell slinger.
What is he going to get from it?
A tracking.
Oh my
Trump
God.
might get punished right here, and Jeff fist pumps.
He's got it. Fireball.
Trump goes down. Jab wins the series 3-2. And a most unlikely of scenario to thin the deck.
Spellslinger into tracking, into Fireball for lethal. Wow, what a finish.
What an intense series.
And that single-handedly determines whether or not some player has to go through the loser's portion of the group, or one person goes to the winner's match. Jab waves out to the crowd. A job well done.
I mean, what a close game. It comes down to 1 life point decision that Trump made. And it's not like Jab even drew the Fireball that Trump could have played around. He drew the Spellslinger into the tracking to get the Fireball. What a game.
What an incredible series, and Jab definitely relieved. His job isn't done. He'll be playing later today and wait the other side of the winners. But once again, to recap, we had Jab be able to win without a warrior in his lineup, proving that his strategy, at least for now, is holding serve.
Absolutely. And even Trump didn't bring Patron Warrior, the dreaded deck of the Conquest format right now. Neither player had the deck. Trump brought Control Warrior, did very well for him. And yeah, I mean, congratulations to Jab for advancing. What a series.
Yeah. What do we think of the lineup here from Jab? Do you think he can really take on whatever? Because he feels very confident in it, and it's been working out so far in the previous tournament and in this tournament so far.
I think for Conquest format, the lineup that Jab has can be excellent against handlock in particular. He was able to win here, even without a handlock in Trump's lineup. But that might be one of the things that he's trying to kind of counter. And if his opponent in his next match potentially is running that handlock, he could potentially not allow his opponent to get that win with the particular deck.
All right, well, that wraps up our first match of the day, where we got plenty more Hearthstone action here from the Folsom Foundry. We want to give a shout to our sponsors, the Amazon App Store, as well as Totino's. Thank you so much for putting on this event with us. And with that, we're going to go to a quick break, take a look at some of the highlights from that match as we get ready for match number 2.